Welcome to the Santa Cruz Coffee Break. If you're watching on YouTube or listening on Apple Podcast, please follow, hit the like button, or any subscribes. It really helps us with the algorithms. Santa Cruz Coffee Break is produced by the Santa Cruz Guitar Players Forum. All opinions are those of the speakers. We invite you to join us on the Santa Cruz Guitar Players Forum at SCGCPF for more fun. Now, let's get on with this installment of Santa Cruz Coffee Break. Greetings, everyone. We'd like to welcome you to the 93rd podcast of the Santa Cruz Guitar Players Forum. And we have a returning guest today, Larry Sogolo of Organic Sounds Guitars. And we're going to figure out some great stuff from Larry, like how he makes those unbelievable recordings and some of the instruments that have been coming through his shop lately. So welcome in, Larry.
Thanks. Nice to see you guys.
Yeah, it's good to have you back. It's, it was, I think, about 2 years and 8 months ago.
Yeah.
And you were just really getting started.
Yeah. So we opened in August of 2022. So we're coming up on 3 years since we opened our doors this summer. So it must have been very early.
Yeah, it was just as you were opening, I think, or something like that.
Yeah. I've learned a few things since then.
You hadn't had your grand opening yet.
Right.
Still trying to get various parts and pieces brought together inside the shop. You were, I think, a much younger and possibly happier man.
Not happier, but a little younger. Yeah, a little younger. I've got a few more gray hairs now than I had then.
Yes, I mean, so you're now in retail. What do you think of it? What's been going on down there?
It's been an interesting ride. I'm learning new things every day. It's a world apart from what I used to do with my life. But I find that there's a lot in common in that it's all about personal relationships. It doesn't matter what business you're in. At this stage of my life, I like to do business with people who I like. And I like my customers, and I'm kind of a middle. I see myself as a middleman, right? I work with the manufacturers like the Santa Cruz folks, and then my customers who come in to buy things, and I kind of facilitate what goes on between them and the manufacturers. I help them find an instrument, and it's a lot of fun. It's not, I'm fortunate that I don't have kids in college right now. They're grown and doing their own thing and making their own living, because it's not a great way to make a huge living. But somehow I'm managing to stay above water. And I know a lot of shops haven't. And so I feel very fortunate that way. And I enjoy, I don't call it work. I don't, when people say, "Where are you going?" I don't say I'm going to work. I'm going to the shop. I'm going to the store. It's fun. And I'm enjoying just about every minute of it. So, and retail's funny right now. There's a lot of uncertainty in the world. It's kind of a crazy time. We will see how things are affected over the next several months as pricing changes, depending upon the manufacturer and where they build their instruments. But for now, people are buying guitars, so the world can't be that bad, right? Yeah, retail's interesting. It's interesting. It's fun.
Well, yeah, okay. So this is your first time in your life to actually be in retail. Before you were a physical therapist.
Right.
So what was probably your biggest surprise and your greatest joy going down this path?
Yeah. Biggest surprise. I think the biggest surprise with the shop when I first opened, and probably last time I spoke with you, when I was figuring out the business plan and trying to do projections of sales and so on, I figured that I would sell 10 times as many inexpensive guitars as I sold expensive guitars. In other words, the store isn't in a super affluent area, although I do have some affluent communities not far away. But I thought that I would sell way more $400 and $500 guitars than I would sell $4,000 and $5,000 guitars. And it's actually ended up being the opposite. People don't come to me for cheap stuff. So they go elsewhere, right? Whether it's a Guitar Center or a lot of people just order online for the cheap guitars. So when I first opened my inexpensive brand, which is still I think a quality brand, but the least expensive brand that I ordered was Alvarez that I signed with. And I ordered a few dozen guitars from them, thinking that I just burned through them. And out of those few dozen, I still have almost half, because they sit on the wall. People don't come here. Sometimes someone will come in and say, what's the least expensive guitar that you have? And if I say around $500, that doesn't sound inexpensive to them. They're looking for $100, $200. So I refer them somewhere else where they can find what they're looking for. But, I've managed to find a niche here with the high-end small shop type instruments. And it's kind of a great place to live as a retailer because, I don't need to make a ton of sales to make this work.
That's excellent.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You've had it's been quite transition down in Southern California with Buffalo Brothers and things going away, and some other small shops down there going away. You're really kind of last man standing, aren't you?
Well, there are a few other shops. There aren't that many that carry these kind of instruments.
Right.
I think Santa Cruz has a new dealer in Los Angeles area, which is, an hour and a half drive north of me. There's a cool shop that's very established in Laguna Beach, which is about a half-hour drive from here. There's one fellow down in San Diego who sells some high-end stuff, but we are few and far in between now, who carry these kind of boutique brands. And so I get a lot of folks who come in just want to play them, which is because I think a lot of the small retailers are just open by appointment now. I don't think they necessarily, some of them encourage people to come in and play. They'd rather ship, right? Where, I tried to make this shop a comfortable place to come hang out and play instruments and talk guitars and talk music. And so I get a lot of folks who drive fairly long distances just to come in and see, they say, wow, you've got, what do I have, 10 or 12 Santa Cruz guitars. I've never played one. I can't find them anywhere. They just want to come and play them. Whether it's Santa Cruz or Loudon or Hudson Dalton or some of the other really cool brands that I carry. So, and that's all fun. That's all fun.
That's fantastic.
Are respectful. And if they do that, even if they don't buy something, they might in the future, or they tell their friends about the shop, which is nice. So word of mouth, reputation is all important.
Well, or organic growth for organic sounds. I mean, seems appropriate.
Yeah.
So in listening to our last podcast with you this morning,
yeah,
you were talking, I mean, you had these great ideas of getting into other instruments and harmonicas and doing all kinds of things. What have you learned from the last couple of years? What, looking back at what you thought this was going to be 2.5 years ago, what's changed?
But to me, it's all about focus, just offering a few things, but having good options within those few areas. So I don't sell harmonicas. I haven't added ukuleles. I've thought about adding mandolins, but I still haven't done it. Every once in a while, I'll get a used electric bass in on a trade or something like that, but I don't tend to carry those instruments either. It's all about guitars here. And I'm not really the type of shop that people come into for full, I don't want to say full service, but I carry strings and I have capos and I have straps and that kind of thing, but people don't tend to come here for those things. I don't sell those online. A lot of people who come to play guitars feel like they want to spend a little money since they came to play the guitars, and they'll buy some strings or whatever. So I carry all those things. But for me, it's more about focusing on the high end, really nice instruments. And, if the opportunity presents itself to add mandolins or something like that, I might take that opportunity. But my focus hasn't been in making it bigger and bigger and bigger. It's more kind of making it focused.
Got it. Well, and when you were setting up, you were also setting up a stage, and you were going to get into open mics and little house concerts and everything. Has that panned out?
Yeah, it's actually worked out great. I don't know if you can see. I'll get out of
Yeah.
You can see the stage behind me there.
Yeah.
We've hosted a number of events. You mentioned our grand opening that happened after we spoke the last time, and that was the first really big event that we hosted. And Richard Hoover came and spoke, and James Nash was with him and demoed Santa Cruz guitars, and then we had a whole set with James afterwards, and that worked great. And we, in my space here, I can fit about 50 chairs if I move the furniture out of the way, and we've have filled it up several times for events, which are a ton of fun. Yeah, I really enjoy it. In fact, I spoke with Richard Hooper again recently about doing another event here sometime in the next few months. So we'll probably do it again with him. One advantage I have where I'm located is I'm right in the middle of Orange County, California. So Anaheim is about a 10 or 15-minute drive north of me. Anaheim Convention Center, as you guys know, Tad, I saw you there a couple of years ago at the NAMM show. So every January, we have all the manufacturers from around the world right here in town. So one thing we've done is, you know, right around the NAMM show, we'll schedule something. One of the manufacturers will come and give a talk. We'll have a demo player. This year, my friends from Husson Dalton gave a talk. We were supposed to have a big name guy play, Trey Hensley, but he gets stuck in the snowstorm down in Atlanta, so we had to kind of scramble. That was a bummer because I had him scheduled to do a workshop in the afternoon, and it was sold out like that. You know, we had all the seats sold, and then he couldn't make it because no fault of his. Poor guy spent 11 hours at the airport in Atlanta trying to get on an airplane to get out here and never made it because of the snow. Anyway, that was a fun event. The year before, we had the folks from Loudon Guitars from Northern Ireland. They came and gave a talk. Had a fellow named Ariel Poston, who's kind of made a big name for himself online. He came and played guitars, and we had some other performers. And those are great. But besides those, we've had some house concerts. We've had a few events where people come and we sell tickets, and they do a concert here. It's a great little venue. I put up a PA system. We've got a couple of QSC speakers and a mixer and everything, and it sounds terrific in this room when they play. And yeah, I mean, those events aren't money makers for me, but they bring people in, and they're fun. The open mic idea, I think we had talked about it, and I've thought about it now and then, and I've shied away from doing it because I'm a little nervous about the fact that I've got a lot of very expensive instruments in here. And if I bring in a bunch of folks who I don't know, who are mostly guitar players, then they're going to get played and touched, and I may not be able, if I'm hosting, to keep my eye on everything. So I haven't done the open mic. I don't know if we'll do that or not. But the house concerts are fun. And they're not frequent, but we've done, I don't know, 6 or 8 in the last year, and we've had some great players. Taya, I think you interviewed Taya Gherkin.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So he did one here. He played and it was terrific. And a guy named Hiroya Tsukamoto, who, if you don't know of him, you got to look him up. He's fantastic. From Japan, lives in New York City, spends his, plays professionally and tours the country all the time. And we've had a few others that are just a lot of fun. So I enjoy that. It's a lot of work to set things up and get chairs moved in and out and put some food out and clean up afterwards. But it makes it all worthwhile. It's all the package deal running the store that, all the different things make it fun for me and rewarding for me as well. And
maybe a food truck.
we could do it. Well, we did that for that very first opening with the Santa Cruz folks. We had a food. Well, it wasn't a truck. They set up a cart outside with tacos and everything, and it was fun. Yeah. Otherwise, we just put out a little wine and beer and sodas and some crackers and cheese and that kind of thing, and it works out. Yeah.
I wonder if there's a food truck that does that.
Lots of food trucks out there. I bet there is. They just, just everything. So you try when you're doing that kind of thing, because again, it doesn't make me any money. All the money we bring in goes to the performers. So I try to keep my expenses, small if I can. So at least I'm not losing money on the deal. So I'm sure I could hire a food truck, but it would cost a little money. Yeah. Yeah. We've got some guy, actually, I'm in a strip mall. We've got a really cool Mediterranean restaurant right next door.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
There's a Subway over here, and there's a Starbucks across the street. So there are places to get stuff to eat and drink.
Nice.
So this recording setup that you have.
Yeah.
First of all, your Facebook videos sound great.
Thank you.
Really, really sound great on my phone. They sound great on my laptop. On my pad, they sound great on my desktop. So what are you doing?
It's been a lot of trial and error. So
They are getting better.
thank you. Thank you.
They are.
I,
There's
you know,
noticeable
one thing you
change.
learn, and the videos, I try to average 2 a week, and they go on YouTube first. And then then I take a portion of the YouTube video and try to change the format a little bit to make it look better on Instagram and so on. Yeah, trial and error. I use a pair of microphones, and I go into Logic. I use all Apple stuff. And then I spliced it together. I have a Canon mirrorless camera, professional quality camera, and I do 4K video, and I put it all together in Final Cut Pro, and try to make it look good and get it all synced up, and add a little graphics here and there if I need to, put pictures in, and put it out there. And yeah, that was a learning curve. I kind of had to teach myself how to make it sound decent and look decent. And the YouTube channel, I'm slowly increasing my number of subscribers. I'm at 1,200 and something now. I think I average like one new subscriber a day. I get about 30 new a month.
Nice.
So it's gradually climbing, and you put the stuff out there on Instagram. It's nice when so Santa Cruz, for example, Brenda always tells me, if you're going to do it, ask us to collaborate on the video, put it on Instagram, and I do that. And of course, instantly I get thousands more views because all the people following Santa Cruz Guitar Company. So that's fun to see. It's kind of, I mean, I know you do a lot of recording. It's heady stuff to put out a video and see that there's 5,000 people who watched it. It's kind of fun to do that. I'm not the world's greatest player, but I'm kind of learning what people like to see in videos. I have learned that something that's very important is to make sure that guitar is perfectly in tune, because if it's not, then somebody out there will definitely let me know. Usually not in a very nice way, right? I do know that I like to record a lot in DADGAD tuning, and I'll sometimes get comments about, you should have done it in standard tuning and so on. People online feel the need to tell you their opinion, and that's all fine. But yeah, no, I appreciate the comment about the video quality being decent, and I've worked on that, and I realize that most people watch on their phone or on their laptop or something. So the quality, and once you put something on, whether it's on YouTube or Instagram or Facebook, I know that things get compressed and maybe the sound quality degrades. That's all fine. You just try to make it sound so that people can get an idea of what the guitar sounds like.
Right, right. So is social media your primary marketing, or are you doing any other form of promotion?
It is my primary marketing, which for better or for worse, it's the way it has to be now in retail. I don't love doing it, but I'm learning to try to love doing it. In terms of posting stuff, I'm not great. I know a lot of folks post every day. They do you get a box in and they have somebody film them opening the box and pulling the guitar out, and they get a lot of subscribers and followers that way. And I'm usually here by myself, so I don't do those kind of things. But yeah, I do that. I mean, I have Google Ads. If I'm doing an event, I'll send out an email to all my email list. Every now and then I'll buy an ad on Facebook or Instagram, which again, social media. But that's most of it. Yeah, that's most of it. Yeah, yeah. Or talking to you guys helps. Right.
Good. We hope. We hope.
Yeah.
Right.
I
mean, how would you find? Do you have other advice for me on marketing?
Oh, I don't understand today's world at all. I mean, social media and social marketing and whatever else is confusing to me, I have to admit. I'm more of a hardware kind of guy, so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't sell through Google. I don't put stuff on Reverb.
Mm-hmm.
So if people find me, they have to go to my website to find me.
Well, and I did see that somebody posted a nice thing about an RS they recently bought from you on Facebook, which is good when you can have customers, give you a
Oh,
shout
that's
out.
nice. I didn't see that. I just sold that guitar a couple days ago, so
Yep.
that was nice.
Yeah,
He
he
posted.
put up something pretty quick.
Cool. Cool. That's
Yeah.
it's fun to get guys like him. He's a fellow came in. He's a younger player, and by younger, I mean not. my,
Not over
whatever
50.
reason, most of my clients are older men like us. So he, a younger guy, very good player, and fun to have around. I love working with customers like that, who come in, and I love when I get young working musicians. That's a lot of fun for me. Um, I get a lot of hobbyists, and they're, people are great anyways. Very rarely do I have somebody that I don't in the shop that I don't want them to be here. Um, Usually people are very respectful and have a lot of questions, which is fun for me. I kind of see the whole thing as being like a service industry versus just a retail. I mean, my goal with the customers that come in is to help them find their instrument, spend time with them, answer questions, show them, based on your style, you got to try this guitar. You're going to sound great in this one. A lot of people are very surprised when they come in which guitar they end up being attracted to. They come in expecting to like one and find that they like something entirely different. So,
Oh,
but that's nice. I appreciate you telling me that. I'll look for that post that he put.
yeah, no, it's amazing how many people seem to think that the words of a stranger that they've read will give them more insight into a guitar. Actually, sitting down with somebody who has a bunch of guitars and playing them.
Play, yeah, especially acoustic guitars. My goodness. I mean, you don't know until you feel it vibrating on your lap, and against your chest, what it's going to sound like to you and what it's going to feel like and how the neck feels and the action and the playability and just does the tone inspire you? Does it speak to you? It's acoustic guitars are such you know, a, an organic thing, right? That's the whole idea of the name of the shop. There's no comparison to listening to a video versus having it in your lap and playing it. You know that. Yeah. We're all
Well,
good. You know
and
that.
Santa Cruz has gone much more of a kind of a custom builder route. So how does that work with you? I mean, how many quote unquote stock Santa Cruz guitars do you have in inventory, and how often do people come in and go through the process of ordering with you?
Yeah, it happens both ways. I mean, so I've gotten right now I've got 10-ish. I don't have to count them. I've something like 10 Santa Cruz guitars here. A couple of them have been here a long, long time. They sit on the wall, people play them, they don't end up moving. But some move very quickly. A lot of folks will come in. I'm working with a young man now we're putting together a custom order. They come in and play all that I have and figure out, I love this one, but I really want it to have a custom inlay, you know, or I'd love this guitar if it just had a little bit wider string spacing or something like that. So, we put together a custom order, and Santa Cruz, those guys are wonderful. I get in touch with Brenda. She puts together a quote. We talk about time frames, and it gets done. And if they've come and played some, then it really helps them to know that they're going to be happy with the final outcome. It is a leap of faith to order a expensive instrument and know that it's yours. And if you don't like it, I'm sorry, it's yours, right? You paid for it. So I think it's helpful to have the instruments to come and play, even if you're going to do a custom order. Having said that, I do a lot of them remotely also. There's a lot of folks who do milestone kind of orders, right? I'm turning 60, I'm turning 70, I'm retiring. This is a retirement gift for myself. And they've always wanted something specific. And a lot of times they'll put a custom, whether it's a heel cap or, like I said, an inlay, something to make it personal to them. And the custom orders are fun because there's so many options, right? Whether it's the bindings, the purflings, what kind of the burst or natural, what kind of burst, the geometry, whether the string spacing and so on. And Santa Cruz has pictures of all their the different rosettes, all the different looks, and we'll go through and sometimes it takes hours and days and weeks before they figure out exactly what they want. And then usually we place the order. They're sure this is what they want, and we go through with it. And it's, and it may be 3 months, it may be 6 months. It depends on what kind of woods they're ordering and how hard it is to find those things. But it's a fun, rewarding process, and it's fun for me too. I
But
enjoy it.
what's the wildest guitar somebody's ordered in terms of just either woods or decorations or
I did an OM last year that was Brazilian, which is cool.
Yeah.
And a sunburst, and he wanted a maple neck on it, which is cool and different. And yeah, you get some crazy ones. I did a really cool baritone custom, um, again with the sunburst, and it was a fellow buying it as a gift for his business partner. So they put their company logo inlaid at the 12th fret,
wow.
which is kind of cool. Um,
That would be about the only reason I could imagine having a partner in my business.
that's a good business partner, right? Who's going to order you something like that. Yeah. I mean, most of them are pretty straightforward customs. You know, they want to do a wood combination they can't find out there. You know, they really want cocobolo and old growth Adirondack or something that's maybe hard to find in stock somewhere. And so they want to, you know, and it may not be in a wild combination, but yeah, people put their imagination into things.
I'm gonna make an impassioned plea that if you ever see an early OMPW with style 42 inlays,
Okay.
that was mine, and I had to sell it through some unfortunate situations.
Yes, the one that got away.
Yeah, if it ever comes back around.
Do you remember what year it was from, or do you have an idea of the serial number?
Must be, I think it was 2102.
Yeah.
Must be pretty early in the OMPW. It was a Rosewood just a stock OMPW.
Okay. So the serial number is 2102.
I believe that to be the case.
Okay. All right.
I wonder why.
Keep an eye out for you.
I wonder why I can remember that number.
Why not?
Just to emphasize, it was not stolen. It's
Yeah,
just
it was
hoping someday to get it back.
Okay.
it was
I'll call the
sold.
police if it comes in.
Yeah, it was not there, but you know, I don't know. Stuff comes around, and
It's probably still out there.
I would hope so.
I would hope so.
I had an idea where it went, and I keep thinking, you know, I keep going like, oh boy, there it is. And it's not. So
And it's not the one.
it's not, but that's
OMPWs are wonderful, aren't they?
you know, when I bought that, I was traveling really extensively, and what I thought I wanted was a Clapton.
Oh yeah.
And there were 8 million of them, and I literally played 40 of them as I traveled around. And I was in Nashville, and I was in a lot of really guitar oriented places, and I found one in Savannah that I thought was really great, and I came back, and I went up to my local dealer, and I just went, what the heck am I doing? You know? I mean, it was such a different experience, and I think they had a couple of them at the time, and it was just such a different experience of playing something handmade versus playing something that was factory, you know, factory produced.
Right.
And you know, it's kind of, I always kind of thought it started out to be a really low number, and I just have seen that company is releasing a $300,000 guitar, a D300, with 30 of them going to be made. So I mean, you're going to spend $300,000 on a guitar, and there's 29 other guys out there that have the same guitar. I mean,
you wonder if they'll actually be played, or if they'll be put on in a display case on the wall.
Yeah, probably. You know, I mean, but just thinking in terms of where prices have gone to and things like that. You know, at that level, I guess it would be. You know, I do know a big car collector, and his stuff just sits in his garage. You know? Yeah.
There's a lot of guitar collectors out there, and in fact, a lot of them help me stay in business. Right? They buy these instruments, and one thing I always say is, it's a lot cheaper than collecting Porsches, right? Or motorcycles or something.
That's what this guy collects, is Porsches,
And,
by the way.
yeah, there you go. Yeah, and people get pleasure out of them, and the craftsmanship level is just through the ceiling, right? There's especially Santa Cruz. They're just such beautiful instruments, and I think Tad, you made this point last time. They get better.
Yeah.
They get better.
It, I've been to Santa Cruz and toured the shop with Richard numerous times. I mean, to me, it's just probably the best thing you can do if you make it to Santa Cruz is to arrange a tour of the Santa Cruz Guitar Company, because what they do is amazing. But I was at the Artisan Guitar Show just a week or two ago, and I went on the tour of the Martin Guitar Factory.
Oh,
and it's amazing. I mean, it is beyond belief in terms of the precision machinery they use, the precision jigs, but they turn out 185 guitars a day. And at any particular point in time, there are 12,000 guitars in process inside that one building.
12,000.
12,000. And when you walk through and you see their laser guided, cutting out machines, and their fully robotic buffers and their CNC inlay and whatever else, and you compare it to the kind of handwork you see, at Santa Cruz, and the attention they put into the very limited number of instruments, you really appreciate the difference. It's just, to me, it was night and day. I mean, I'm sure there are a lot of people who are very into Martin guitars, but given half a choice, I'd go out of my way to buy a Santa Cruz.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Richard Hoover made the point that they're all hand voiced, right? And it's, if you don't do that, if you're just making soundboards to a certain spec and making bracing to a certain spec, then it's like throwing a dart against a dartboard. Maybe you'll hit the bullseye every once in a while, but most of the time you won't.
45.
1 in 45.
1 in 45, I found.
Yeah.
When I was looking, and
yeah. And where Santa Cruz, they hit the bullseye every time because the process of building, well, you guys know Richard Hoover well. I know you know him well personally, and you've interviewed him a number of times. The passion that comes out of that man for what he does, and the 50 years or whatever it is of experience in building, it's just amazing. But having said that, I mean, kudos to Martin. I mean, if it wasn't for Martin, none of these other makers would be there, so the history that's involved in that company is phenomenal. I have tons of respect for them. I'm not a Martin dealer. I get used ones in now and then. I get a lot of used Taylor guitars that come in now and then. I respect those folks also. But they're, like you say, they're not the same thing.
Yeah. So you were going to do consignment. Is that working out for you?
Yeah, I do quite a few consignments. I've got some really cool consignment instruments in right now. Some high-end stuff. Kevin Ryan's a maker here in Orange County. I've got one of his. I've got a high-end McPherson that just came in the other day with Brazilian rosewood. And I get a few, from Collings and some of the other makers. A lot of Taylors come in. And depending on the instrument, they either sit there for months or they move in a day. You never know who's looking for something. But the consignments they can be nice. I tend to be real picky what I accept to sell on consignment. And the reason is it's a small shop, right? I've got 1,200 square feet here. I've got room for less than 100 guitars, and I've got every wall slot taken right now. So, I don't take just anything on consignment. It has to kind of fit the vibe of the store, but it's fun getting those instruments and getting my hands on them because, like, for example, this McPherson that came in the other day, I hadn't played one. I've seen them, a lot of them, you see on TV, somebody in Nashville playing one on stage and that kind of thing, but I'd never played one before. And it's a different beast. It doesn't sound or feel like a Santa Cruz guitar by any stretch, but it's got gorgeous Brazilian rosewood, and it's got this cool, deep, rich kind of sound with tons of sustain. And It's a different, like I said, it's a different beast, and it's a lot of fun for me to experience these instruments and then to, have an opportunity to sell them also. So
I have
the consignments are fun.
I have a great consignment story from about 3 weeks ago. We have a small local shop here in Monterey, and he seems to have a fairly interesting clientele. And I walked in, and the guy that was in there was just, I hate to say, not really fun to be around. And he had a amp that was up way louder than it needed to be. And it's a small little shop. It's maybe 600 feet, 700 square feet. It's tiny.
Yeah.
And it was really kind of stuff. And I had brought in a guitar for him to consign. And I handed it to him, and we wrote it up. And the guy sat there and said, "Let me see that." And he bought it on the spot.
Oh, no kidding.
And the dealer said, "That's the fastest sale I've ever had on a guitar."
And you said, let's just go in the parking lot and do business.
No, I'll respect the fact that he's got to keep the lights on
Absolutely.
and that kind of thing too. Are you doing any vintage? Are you looking at any vintage?
For whatever reason, I haven't had true vintage. I haven't had any pre-war Martins come in or anything like that. I'm not an expert on them yet. It's nice when people consider me for an instrument like that. But I don't really know how to correctly price some of those instruments.
It's a moving target right now. I just got to play two of John Thomas's Banner Gibsons.
Oh, yeah.
I got to play the SJ that was sold at the same shop as Woody Guthrie's. Three of them at that time, and then the second guitar the women ever shipped, it was an LG2, and both completely different instruments, entirely, and entirely in the build process and everything else, and they were spectacular. But I don't know how you would price, something like that.
Yeah.
The value that it is, but
you look for comps, but some instruments don't have comps, right?
There's no comps, and again, something like that. I was just offered something from a guy in New Mexico, and I remember playing an old Frontier, Epiphone Frontier in Santa Fe, and thinking it was just one of the most amazing sounding guitars I've ever heard, and then thinking that I would bring it back into the Monterey Bay from 3% humidity to 55% humidity, and just watching the guitar probably just disintegrate, in front of me.
Yeah.
A strange market, a very strange market right now.
I have a lot of respect for the guys who know their way around that market.
Yeah.
There's to look at one of those instruments and properly assess its condition, right?
Yeah.
And when it comes to those kind of instruments, I think that most of them probably would sell remotely. So you have to be super accurate in terms of your description of it if you're going to try to sell it online. So again, I don't feel like I have the expertise necessarily for some of those really high value vintage instruments at this stage. I'm learning all the time, so maybe I'll be there soon where I feel more comfortable with that. But just, I think people who have those kind of instruments to sell seek out places that sell a lot of them, as they should.
Yeah,
whether it's Carter's or somebody Grun, somebody who knows their way around the vintage world.
Yeah.
And
I just saw an original Explorer, and I kind of was privy to the deal on two different areas, and the guitar sold for $750,000.
Yeah.
And they wanted, at one point the guy said, "Well, I need a couple days, I need a couple day return policy," and at that point the seller said no.
Yeah.
And I would think that even at that point you would you would want to be able to take it to somebody else and say, what do you think here? You know, I mean, it's a lot of money, but that market is, and it's
If you're gonna buy a 750,000 or anything remotely close to that, it's worth a plane ticket to go out and get it in person and inspect it.
yeah.
And
Yeah, this was
maybe buy a flight case for it so that you're comfortable bringing it back with you versus
driving it was the plan.
Yeah.
You know, not putting it up there at all. But you know, and it's interesting to look at that market right now, especially up in Tad's area, as I'm seeing things come onto for sale that seem to be very well priced,
Oh,
but yet it's so easy to fake.
Yeah.
You know, it's so easy to fake. I mean, you know, you look at Stratocasters that last year were 12,000 and this year they're 30.
Yeah.
And you know, that's a you really do have to know what you're looking at.
Yeah. Well, there you're buying collectibles. You're not necessarily buying musical instruments. You're buying serial numbers. You're buying, you know, you're buying whatever. But yeah, that's a whole different thing.
complex. Yeah, yeah. And you mentioned Stratocasters and this kind of thing. You know, electric guitars are something I'm starting to get into a little bit more here. You may see, yeah, it looks like
You can see the wall, yeah.
There's a few over there. Yeah.
I've got one wall of some electric guitars, and so I do get people who want to bring in a cool Stratocaster or something as a trade or a consignment. And I met a fellow at the NAMM show a couple of years ago named Avi Shabbat up here in Los Angeles who makes these really cool kind of boutique level, Fender-ish designs. And so I carry some of his, but I haven't quite built the reputation here yet to sell a lot of electric guitars. Hudson Dalton makes electric guitars now. They're fantastic. I sold a few of those, but we'll see if this may sound silly, but I didn't want to carry electric guitars in the beginning because honestly, I didn't want to listen to people playing them all day. And that's why I didn't. But I found that hasn't been an issue here. I don't get the type of people who come in and crank up the amp to 10 and blow out the windows. It just doesn't happen. So like I said, most of the folks who come in here are very respectful, and I appreciate that a lot. So, but they'll something.
Your next door neighbor beating on the wall.
Yeah, I believe it or not that I'm on a corner unit and the place next door is vacant, so we can make tons of noise if we
Wow.
want.
Great.
But,
I'll send this guy over there.
Yeah. I always thought if I needed to, if business exploded, I needed to expand, I just
Take over.
lease that place too and bump out the wall and double my space, but then I double my rent too. And you guys know how it is.
Yeah.
California in particular, it's rent isn't cheap.
Yeah. So when you were setting up, I think you said you had an arrangement with a local tech for repairs and maintenance and setup and such. How is it working out? Is that still
good? I'm not working with him anymore. He's that particular guy is busy with other stuff now, but I have a local guy who's on call for me. And he's the type of guy you want working on your guitars. He's been doing it for I don't know how many decades. He's in his upper 60s now, and he's a guy who's had his hands on every possible kind of guitar that there is, and he's terrific. So he doesn't work for me specifically. He's on call. So he's kind of a contract employee. If I have work for him, I text him and he says, well, I can come in on Friday or whatever. And he'll come and spend the day. And if I have a few guitars lined up for him, he'll work on them for the whole day. And it works out great. So, we get
he works in your shop.
Yeah. He just comes in and works here.
Nice.
Yeah. And I've got bench and I've got, a rolling bench also and the tools. And if I don't have something, he brings it, a tool that he needs. And it's mostly just setups and sometimes pickup installs. And that's been the bulk of the work. A lot of people ask for string changes, and that's something I do, and I'll do a cleanup of the guitar and put on new strings and that kind of stuff. But if it's more than that, if somebody really needs, fret work and that kind of thing, he comes in, he does a great job. And He's a very outgoing, talkative guy, so he's not a guy who will rip through a setup in a half hour. He'll take 2 or 3 hours and make sure everything's perfect and keep up a conversation the whole time. So
But
it's
that is
fun to have him around. Yeah,
that
he's a
is a
wealth of
rare
knowledge. Yeah.
that is a rare thing. You look at people that do setups, and I do my own electric setups, and I know that if I do it right, it takes me a couple hours,
Yeah. Yeah.
to really get it
Perfect.
perfect and the way it was made and the way it should play.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's such a difference to play a well
Yeah.
set up instrument than it is.
You shouldn't have to fight a guitar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shouldn't have to fight a guitar, and a good, like you said, a good setup makes it so that part is out of the equation. Now it's just you and your skills and your music, what you're trying to express musically instead of trying to fight a guitar that's hard to play. I agree with you.
So, Larry, I know you need to open up in a not too distant amount of time here.
Yeah.
Before we go, it would be great for you to kind of run down who are you currently carrying in terms of new instruments and
Yeah.
their products.
So I'll tell you who really keeps me, I can't imagine running the business without is, of course, Santa Cruz. They're my friends and family. I love those folks. Huss and Dalton is the other one, another business that I can't imagine running the store without. I've sold a lot of their guitars. They're wonderful people and great instruments. I sell a fair number of Loudon guitars. I'm a dealer for Loudon. We will see if any tariffs come up that change the relationship there. I'm not sure what's going to happen. There's a lot of uncertainty out there, but they've been terrific. Larrivee are a great company right up the coast here in Oxnard, California.
You could practically drive up and pick them up there, can't you?
Yeah, I could. It's probably if there's no traffic, it's maybe a 2.5, 3 hour drive. So it's not super close, but I probably could. But they ship them to me. It's easier. I've been selling Firk guitars out of the Czech Republic, and
Ah,
they make a real nice. They're kind of the same price neighborhood as Larrivee, in the say $1,800 to $4,000 range, and Larrivee is more traditional kind of builds and sounding. By traditional, I mean kind of Martin-like.
mhm.
Firk is a little more modern sounding, generally speaking, a little more kind of Taylor-like, I guess you could say.
Well,
And
and they're making really cool travel guitar too, aren't they?
make a guitar called the Little Jane,
Yeah.
which is a cool little travel guitar. They come up, the neck comes off, the headstock comes off of the neck fits into a little slot in the body of the guitar. It all fits in a little backpack about this
Yeah.
big.
I saw one for the first time at the Artisan Show, and I thought, what an amazing bit of technology.
Yeah, yeah, and they put pickups in them and they plug them in, and it sounds like a full-size guitar, and even unplugged, they sound good for a little thing,
Little guitar,
And
yeah.
the fact that it can fit in the seat underneath you in the airplane is cool, and it's a high quality bag. They're a cool company. And then in terms of so a couple of resonator brands. I sell Nationals, and another great company out of Maryland called Beard Guitars.
Oh, okay.
Beard makes a lot of Dobros and resonators, and they're making some flat tops that are really cool now too. I have a good Beard story if you want to hear it. That happened here a couple of years ago. And so those are the main brands, electric, the Shabbat guitars I mentioned. I'm trying to think if I'm leaving. Oh, McNally is another one that comes out of Northern Ireland. A young guy named Kieran McNally, started with Loudon, I think, and moved on his own several years ago. He makes some really nice acoustic guitars. I don't think I'm leaving anybody out of the brands that I'm actually a dealer for. There are a few others I've considered. I've been approached by several who are looking to find dealers out here. And I'm considering a couple of them, and I won't say them until I actually make that decision, but some good quality brands. So I don't want to overextend myself and have too many.
Right.
Some I'd love, I've been chasing the poor folks at Collings. They hear from me every few months because I'd love to carry their instruments. But they're just not signing new dealers. But maybe the door's cracking open a tiny bit and I may get in there at some point. We'll see. But other than that, I haven't really considered adding one of the big brands like you mentioned Martin, Taylor, Gibson. I don't think I could handle the amount of inventory requirements they might have in my little shop. But I'm happy to carry used ones from them.
I think that Beard story happens to involve a Nashville player named Jerry Douglas or something like that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You know Jerry? You've heard the story. Did I tell you the story, or maybe I posted about it? Crazy day. So it was a couple of years ago. We had a break-in in the middle of the night. About 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, somebody broke into the store, broke a window, took about an hour to cut through my security gates, and crawled through, and the alarm went off. I've got motion sensors inside, and ran across, grabbed a couple of Larry guitars off the wall, ran out, slid on the broken glass. Both guitars hit the ground hard, and he slid them out in the concrete. And anyways, got away with these 2 guitars. And by the way, since then I've beefed up my security system. You can't, as soon as you break the window, the alarm goes off. So nobody's getting in the store. But anyways, so that happened about 4 in the morning. I was in here cleaning up glass and doing police reports and insurance claims and putting all the stuff together. And I checked my emails, and I got an email from Beard Guitars. They're in Hagerstown, Maryland. And they happen to have a signature model for Jerry Douglas, who, for those who don't know Jerry, look him up. He's the greatest dobro player of all time, right? He's won, I think, 14 or 15 Grammy Awards and played on a couple thousand different recordings. And they have a signature model for Jerry. So I got this email from Beard, and it said, "We have an unusual request. How would you feel about loaning your Jerry Douglas dobro to Jerry Douglas?" I said, "Sure," right? I didn't know what this is all about, of course. So it ends up Jerry was touring Southern California at the time. He had done a show down a little south of here the night before. And his stage instrument, the pickup, was malfunctioning, and he needed an instrument to play that night up in Santa Barbara. They were moving up the coast. So I said, sure. So a little while later, a big van pulls in the parking lot, and Jerry and his band got out, and they came in. Again, I've got the alarm guy here, and I'm on the phone with the insurance people, and they came in. And they couldn't have been greater people. Jerry was the nicest guy you ever got. I don't know if you've ever met Jerry Douglas, but he is just the nicest fellow you're ever going to meet. And it was a lot of fun. We took a lot of pictures. I loaned him this guitar, and he played it that night up in Santa Barbara, and it gave a shout out to the shop, which was nice. And he ended up, after he'd gotten his own instrument repaired, he ended up signing the back of the headstock of the one he borrowed and shipping it back to me, and which was really cool. And we ended up auctioning off that instrument and raising some money for a cool organization called Guitars for Vets, which does free guitars and lessons for veterans with PTSD. And Jerry was totally on board, and it was very memorable and kind of one of the more fun things to happen for my shop. And the fact that it happened the same night or the same day as the break-in, it made for a very memorable day in the history of Organic Sound Select Guitars. So anyway, that's my Beard story. And the Beard folks are great too. They're a family business, and they're just super people and make great instruments. So
yeah,
I like that company too.
We have taken up enough of your time, and we really appreciate it.
Well, he's got to get the shop open. He's got people out the door, probably.
He's got things to do.
Giant lineup of people out. So no, I don't. We're in good shape. But no, I appreciate you inviting me back. It's always fun to talk to you guys. Tad, I know I met you at NAMM face to face a couple of NAMMs ago, I think.
It was, yeah.
Richard, I don't think we've met face to face, but one of these days we need to.
Yeah, I actually have to come down to Southern California sometime in September, and I'm trying to put together a few little visits.
Yeah.
I have a bouzouki that I've loaned to somebody in San Pedro that I think the only way I'm going to get it back is to go to his house.
It's not another bouzouki in San Pedro story.
Yeah, no. Other than that, actually, Mad Dog's old one, Tad. So Mad Dog was an early supporter of the forum, and we lost him several years ago. But had a lot of really strange, crazy instruments.
Really?
And somehow this found its way to me. So I'm blessed to have it, and now I want it back. Dennis. But we will let you know. This will probably post. It might even post this afternoon if I get a chance to do it. And we'll let you know, and we'll share it around, and hope you will as well. And we wish you nothing but the best, Larry.
Thanks. I really appreciate you inviting me on. Always great to talk to both of you guys, and I wish you guys the best too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I hope to come down and visit that shop in person.
Yeah.
And I'm also hoping my wife, who's in the other room recovering from her hip surgery, did not hear about your consignment on Santa Cruz's. So,
well, I wish her a smooth and complete recovery. I know she's a veteran of these kind of surgeries, so I wish her well, and I wish both of you guys well. And thanks so much.
All right. Thank you, Larry.
Have a great day.
Take care, guys.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
We hope you enjoyed this installment of the Santa Cruz Coffee Break. For more music-related fun, please join the Santa Cruz Guitar Players Forum at SCGCPF or santacruzguitarplayers.com. If you have any questions or possible podcast topics, please contact us. If you have a product or service that you feel would be of value to our listeners, please consider adding your support and keeping the coffee pot on. Contact us for more information. We ask that you hit the like, follow, bell, or bookmark buttons so we can keep you informed of upcoming podcast episodes. We hope you enjoyed Santa Cruz Coffee Break. Now it's time to go play your guitar.